Nice to see you. A beautiful day here. We had beef day at the legislature. We had dairy day yesterday with ice cream. And today, sable fish. I think we're on a roll. Obviously, I would think that about our government, but I mean, pretty demonstrable the last 3 days. Really nice to see everybody here. I want to thank Finest at Sea and Captain Bob here of the Ocean Pearl, the amazing boat that you see here. Bob and his crew of 13 were out on the high seas for more than 60 days fishing for sablefish. Bob is a leader in sustainability around sablefish, and he is involved with Department of Fisheries and Oceans doing audits of the stock, ensuring protection and advocating for a sustainable sablefish industry here in British Columbia off our coast. So I want to thank him for that work and thank him for being here with us today and welcoming all of us to see this incredible operation behind us. 300,000 pounds of sablefish are being unloaded right now. 98% of this shipment is going direct to Asia. It's going to Japan. 2% will stay here in Victoria for local connoisseurs. And it's a real demonstration of the connection and the opportunity that British Columbians have with markets around the world. You know, as we're under attack by the president of our largest trading partner, our relationship with overseas markets, the opportunity to expand those markets and diversify markets away from the United States is more important than ever. And that's what we're going to do. That's why Minister Popham and I, along with Parliamentary Secretary Paul Choi, will be headed to Asia on a trade mission with businesses to ensure that we are doing a few things. One is to meet with our existing customers and investors overseas. There's a time of global instability and uncertainty to remind them that British Columbia is a stable jurisdiction, a strong partner, and we value the relationship we have with them. The other is to identify opportunities to expand markets. And so the work that we're doing will involve visits to Japan, to South Korea, and to Malaysia. The reason for bringing the Agriculture Minister along is that one of our significant products that we've been able to export to Asia, one of the areas where we've seen significant uptake under free trade agreements, has been BC food. Our food is valued as clean and wholesome and safe and commands a premium in Asian markets. In fact, in Malaysia, we're targeting a halal food fair that has buyers from around the world servicing the halal food market and ensuring that BC businesses will be able to access that market. We are not just limiting our discussions, though, to food. We know that there are customers overseas for so much of what we produce here. Almost 2/3 of the world's population is directly accessible from our ports in BC, and those markets are looking for things like our clean energy, like technology products here in BC, like our food products and agriculture products that I mentioned, lumber and wood products, LNG, critical metals and minerals that are in demand across the world. Our province will be the engine of the new Canada that is more independent, that is less reliant on the United States, and that faces boldly and confidently to the entire world. We're excited about playing that role here. We look forward to working with the federal government on delivering that vision right here off the west coast of Canada and partnering with other provinces and territories to make that a reality. Here in our province, we're executing the largest infrastructure build in our province's history. We have major private sector projects that are ready to go. We're putting the legislation in place to ensure that we deliver these projects quickly, efficiently, and while maintaining our high standards around the environment and partnerships with First Nations. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, about the opportunity for British Columbia, and the resilience and the support of British Columbians as we stand strong and proud as both British Columbians and Canadians and do this work together. Thanks very much for joining us here today.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a spot. What a location. It's such an honor to be here, to see my good friend Bob, and to join the Premier on an amazing trade mission to Asia. I am so excited to strengthen partnerships that we currently have, make a lot of new connections, and promote BC's amazing food products. It is so important that when we meet with people, we tell them the stories about the British Columbians that are producing this food. While we're going to be exploring new markets and opportunities for our producers and our processors, this is also about ensuring that there's resilience and growth of BC businesses in the face of economic uncertainties posed by the U.S. government. We're so happy to be able to get out here and look firsthand at just one of our amazing BC businesses here who are having some success in the export market. Finest at Sea, I'm sure anybody who's from Victoria is very familiar with them. They already export to Japan, the US, and the UK. We want to make sure that when we go over there, we talk about how they're already showcasing these products, but how can we increase that? We're incredibly proud of the work that they do in this really difficult economic climate. It's crucial for BC businesses to focus on finding and developing new markets to mitigate risk and to ensure continued growth. And we want to be there to make sure that that is happening. Finest at Sea recently participated in EU Seafood Market Expo that was held in Barcelona. And I think they've told us they received loud and clear that EU and Japanese buyers are extremely interested in shifting their purchasing from the US to Canadian products. And that's really good news for us and companies like Finest at Sea. As the Premier said, we're watching 300,000 pounds of sablefish come in on this amazing boat, fresh from the water, being unloaded onto the wharf and primarily destined for Japanese markets. This is approximately $2 million pounds of seafood that Finest at Sea exports annually. It's a lot of seafood. And what does this mean for British Columbia? It means jobs. Finest at Sea provides 50 full-time jobs and 180 seasonal opportunities. So it's really important that we get out there and support these markets. It means that there's jobs in our communities, and it supports our local economy. Our government is completely committed to supporting local farmers, local food processors, and that support is unwavering. Not a day goes by that I am not championing our Buy BC program and urging people to buy local food products. And Finest at Sea is just an example of one of 11,000 businesses that's using our Buy BC logo. We will continue to support through my ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, companies through the Agriculture and Food Export Program so that they can expand their markets across Canada and around the globe. I am so looking forward to promoting these incredible businesses, telling their stories. One opportunity is at the Seoul Food and Hotel Show in South Korea, and looking forward to having those conversations. As we've been preparing for this trade mission, I've had a lot of conversations over the past few weeks with businesses here in BC. They're very supportive of this work that we're doing on this trade mission, and they look forward to connecting with us when we get back. Our commitment is there to make sure that we're not only feeding people at home with high quality food, but we're making sure that we have a great, strong food economy around the globe. Thank you.
Happy to take questions from the press row here today.
All right, we're going to kick things off with Richard Zussman from Global News.
How will you measure success from this trip? Will there be, in essence, accounting to say, look, we went to Asia, we spent this much money to do it, and in turn, we came back with these opportunities for British Columbians?
Well, the advice that we've received about trade missions like this, and particularly to Asia, is that relationships are crucially important. This is an important way to show respect for the investments that have been made in British Columbia from companies located in Japan, in South Korea, in Malaysia. to visit them and reassure them that we value their business and our partnership together, and we're keen to work together. Most of the companies that are investing in British Columbia, they are massive international companies with the capacity and interest in investing further in jurisdictions that are stable, which provides the benefit of jobs here in British Columbia. So the first goal here will be to meet with those major partners that we have internationally and expand the work that they're doing with us. The second is to introduce BC businesses and connect them with new partnerships and new opportunities through various events that are taking place in the World Fair event that's taking place in Osaka. You heard about the hotel and food show in South Korea. These are events where buyers are gathering together to identify new partnerships, and the government can play a role in introducing businesses through partnerships that we're able to establish with other governments. So the metrics are two: keeping the business we have and expanding it, and making those new connections for businesses.
Richard, do you have a follow-up?
I'm going to try to drive a fish truck by Keith Baldry today and see if he can keep his concentration like you have. Your government hired Michael Bryant for a short-term contract. Whose decision was it to hire Michael Bryant? And was the government aware of allegations of harassment that have been levied against him around his former employer?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in Michael Bryant. I met him when he was doing work at Legal Aid BC, and I was the Attorney General. He's a guy who's gone through quite a personal journey of recovery, and understands law, understands politics, understands the challenges of addiction and recovery. And it was my recommendation to the minister that's responsible, Sheila Malcolmson, was received well by that ministry, and they hired him to do this important work for us. In the downtown east side, we have a population of people that are served by variously nonprofit organizations, charities, hospitals, City of Vancouver, federal government programs. This hodgepodge of programs and the lack of any kind of measurable outcomes or metrics about understanding how we're supporting the specific population of people that are affected by this is a huge issue. And so I've asked Michael, in partnership with Minister Malcolmson, to go into that neighborhood, to identify opportunities for us to do better in that neighborhood. It's the reason why I got into politics. And I'm very much looking forward to his report back to us. Any HR-related matters with his previous employer are just that. And I'm looking forward to hearing his report on the downtown east side.
Rob Shaw, Check News.
Premier, do you think it's appropriate the Director of Police Services ordered the RCMP to investigate how an opposition critic obtained leaked information from your government?
Yeah, I learned about that this morning. First of all, let me say Eleanor Sturko did her job. I was an opposition MLA for a number of years. If I had ever been so fortunate as to receive documents like that about the government of the day, I would have done exactly what she did. I disagree with her often on policy, but in this case, game recognized game. That was some solid opposition work. The independent decision that was made by the Director of Police Services to request an RCMP investigation was just that. It was taken on its own initiative. The decision by the RCMP to investigate, if that is in fact what they're doing, is their decision. We don't direct the police. I will say that consistently I support whistleblowers bringing forward information. Always, though, with the caveat of ensuring that criminal investigations maintain their integrity. There are a number of investigations currently underway related to pharmacies in the downtown east side, and that work is critically important and needs to continue. And I hope that's the focus of police.
Rob, do you have a follow-up?
Do you think this person is a whistleblower who should be protected? And if the Director of Police Services is using the police to persecute a whistleblower, do you think the Director of Police Services should be replaced?
Well, my primary interest here is that the pharmacies involved in this conduct are investigated and prosecuted. That should be the number one priority of the police. I think that the ability of opposition politicians to gather information and bring it forward needs to be protected as well. I have asked and been told that we are unable as government to direct the RCMP in relation to this investigation. It will be the RCMP's decision whether or not to terminate it or to continue it. The decision to ask for the investigation was made independently of government. So I hope that the focus of police, though, remains on the court conduct that was the focus of the briefing, which was these bad actor pharmacies allegedly involved in diverting drugs into the street markets.
Wolfgang Deppner, Canadian Press.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question, Premier. Question regarding your trade mission to Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia. Japan and South Korea are the third and fourth largest trading partner with BC, respectively, but nowhere near the United States and mainland China. And just to build on the earlier question, what is the exact measurement by which you will measure success? So, for example, trade with Japan represents about 10% of BC's overall trade. Do you have a specific number in place by, say, 5 years from now, we'll be at 15%, or perhaps even larger? Can you give us a specific metric by which you will measure the success of this trade mission?
So when I was first sworn in, one of the first piece of work we did was to go overseas to visit with overseas trading partners. We're a province and a country that often gets squeezed between two huge powers, between China and the United States. And diversification of markets has been a priority out of the gate for me. We've opened new trade offices, we've done trade missions. This is a continuation of that work. And what we've been measuring our success by is, are we seeing trade volumes go up? Are we seeing reduced dependence on the United States? And the answer to both questions is yes. So the goal here is to continue to accelerate trade with these countries, to continue to create opportunities like Finest at Sea and the jobs for British Columbians that diversified markets represent. And the bonus is we have a federal government now that's also focused on supercharging that work with us to ensure that our ports, that our roads, that our train systems, the rail systems are able to meet the demand of global markets, that we can get markets to product overseas and be less reliant on the United States.
Wolf, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. But I just want to briefly push back to trade with Japan and South Korea actually dropped during the past year. But I want to talk about the ostriches in Edgewood, BC. The independent MLA Jordan Keeley has called the decision by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to cull those 400 animals a case of government overreach. And he's made the argument that both the provincial and the federal governments have to do more to protect small farmers. What, if any, measures is your government going to take to help protect those animals from being culled? Thank you.
Yeah, the Minister of Agriculture and I think British Columbians are a little bit frustrated by the actions of this federal agency. We understand the importance of containing the bird flu and the important role that agency plays. What's hard to watch is lack of discretion and ability to evaluate case-by-case scenarios. Let's take that away from the specific instant case and just talk about that generally. It's been a consistent experience that farmers have had with federal agencies. Devastating for this family, for this farm, for these folks who are trying to build a life for themselves. And I hope the federal government looks very carefully at appropriate compensation to ensure they're made whole, and not that can fill in for the massive loss that they've seen.
Katie DeRosa, CBC.
Premier, we know that China has huge tariffs on Canadian seafood, so why not include China in the trade mission? Is that a missed opportunity, and what's being done to get those tariffs removed?
You know, we are unfortunately on a two-front trade war right now. The Chinese government has imposed tariffs on seafood like this, as well as on canola and pork products out of the prairie provinces. We're really encouraging the federal government to work with the Chinese government to de-escalate, because it's having a huge impact, certainly on seafood producers here, but as well and particularly on Saskatchewan and Manitoba, partners of ours in Confederation. The anxiety that I have is being too dependent on any one trading partner, especially trading partners that have been engaged in imposing tariffs on Canadians. Diversifying our markets away from these two gigantic markets and working with other markets is a priority for us, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Katie, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, the opposition parties are accusing your government of forcing through key pieces of legislation under the guise of responding to tariffs, including Bill 15, which is still critics are still opposing, including Indigenous groups. Do you think that there's enough time to debate these major pieces of legislation that will overhaul the way we approve projects in BC?
Yeah, I mean, we just finished second reading on Bill 15 yesterday. It ended even before the time allotted for it. So we have had time to debate it. But let me be frank. I mean, there is a significant difference between our government's understanding of the tariff threat and the opposition's. In the early days of the president's actions targeting Canadians, the opposition told us that we should just comply with his demands. And then they said it was a stupid idea to take alcohol off the shelves and antagonize the president. Then they said that our response of building up our economy, of trying to get things done faster now, is not a good idea. Well, I mean, they have opposed every step of our tariff response. I'm not surprised that they oppose this too. They're talking about things like Western Canada should separate from the rest of the country. Their MLA from the Shuswap. They're talking about things like politicians need to be paid more money. This is a key platform advocated for by the leader of the opposition. They say that our renewable energy program, $6 billion of jobs and prosperity across this province, is unicorn farts. So they've got their own bizarre, conspiracy-laden perspectives about what we should be doing. For us, it's about building First Nations partnerships, strong economy, strong public services. It's not more complicated than that, and that's what these bills are about.
Rob Popham, CTV.
Well, hi, Premier. I have a question on behalf of a colleague that relates to a situation in Vancouver where a 6-year-old child came home from elementary school and they had been changed into completely different clothing, including their underwear, from what they went to school that day in. They told their parent that a man had taken them to the basement and had done that. The parent has still not had much by way of answers from the school. I wanted to get your reaction. How concerning as a parent is that, and is the Ministry of Education investigating this?
Yeah. Like, can't even imagine what I would do if my child came home and told me a story like that. First of all, my heart goes out to this parent, and we'll stand in support with her to make sure that she gets all the answers she needs. I understand the police are investigating. The Ministry of Education is there in partnership to support the school and the school board. I expect them to be supportive and cooperative with those investigations. And every single kid, when they go to school, needs to be safe. And any time there are concerns like this, parents deserve answers quickly. And if they can't get them, the police need to be there, and that's what's happening.
Rob Popham with a follow-up.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the questions regarding the police services. You sort of tipped your hat to Eleanor Sturco's efforts in opposition. I wanted to get your reaction. She said she is pissed off, was the words I read, about being investigated in this. Can you relate or empathize with her feeling that way? And also in terms of the Director of Police Services, you've said you can't get involved, but just following up, should they lose their job?
So for MLA Sturco, she was doing her job. I understand why she would be unhappy to get a call from the police when all she was doing was exactly what British Columbians hired her to do. As for the decisions that were made independently by the Director of Police Services, we'll follow up with him and understand some of what he was hoping to get from this. But as far as I understand now, it's beyond our capacity to direct the RCMP and the work that they're doing right now, if any.
Vaughn Palmer, Vancouver Sun.
Premier Sturco says that she believes this investigation is launched to silence whistleblowers and intimidate the opposition. Do you think that's a valid concern?
Well, I think that that investigations like this can have that effect. I think that anyone thinks that they could silence Eleanor Sturco has another thing coming. But that doesn't make what happened right. She was doing her job. That job needs to be protected. Whistleblowers need to be protected to bring forward information. And also, there is the Director of Police Services legitimate concern that there's criminal investigations happening. But at the end of the day, those criminal investigations need to be the focus of police. We need those investigations of those pharmacies to conclude and for charges to be laid.
Vaughn with a follow-up.
The government can't direct the RCMP or the Director of Police Services on this matter. But do you, as Premier, in light of your concerns about whistleblowing and MLAs doing their job, do you wish they would drop this matter?
Yeah, I think that the better use of police time right now would be to focus on the pharmacies that were involved in this conduct, so that we can have confidence in pharmacists across the province to be doing the right thing. And that is unfortunately in question for a number of pharmacies that were involved here.
Fran Yanner, Northern Beat.
Thank you for the question, Premier. Just to follow up on Vaughn on this Sturco situation, I'm wondering if you have what your thoughts are on a political environment. I know that the Director of Operations, Police Operations, is independent, but he also operates within a political climate. I'm wondering if you have any issues about the political climate that allowed or enabled him to even consider initiating a prosecution or an investigation against a whistleblower, and then escalated to involving Sturco.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to speculate because I haven't talked to the director, but I would imagine that here's a guy who's shared information with police about an active criminal investigation, and the next thing he knows, it's out in the public. And so, you know, that he has this independent office, he has this capacity and ability to ask for the investigation, and that's what he did. What I can say, though, as the Premier, is it doesn't feel like the priority right now, nor does it feel like the main issue. The main issue for police should be the focus and attention on these pharmacies that were alleged to be involved in this conduct, putting together the case to ensure that they can be prosecuted.
Fran, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. As you know, I've been talking to some mayors. There's lots of pushback against Bill 15. Number of mayors, many mayors, not all, but many mayors very concerned about the overreach in it, wondering if you would consider heeding the president of UBCM's call for a pause and meaningful consultation. Sorry. And if not, then how many mayors would it take? Is there a number of mayors that would cause you to change track?
Yeah, I mean, this is a challenge because I have mayors coming to me saying, look, we need our schools and hospitals faster, or we don't understand why this major economic project for our region is being held up by the province's internal processes. And so this is animated by concerns from mayors like the mayor of Grand Forks that was like, why did I have to take out 40 separate permits to rebuild after the flood? For mayors of other communities that want to build crucial infrastructure to protect them from floods. Why is this school not built yet? I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with mayors, but not just mayors, parents and families and people who need these frontline services. So I think that at the end of the day, I understand the suspicion. I understand the anxiety, but I think we'll be able to demonstrate through the use of this bill that actually we are meeting the demands of mayors, the demands of First Nations to accelerate projects that they support and working with them on that.
Andrew McLeod, the Tyee.
Yeah, hi, Premier. The McIntyre-Starco inquest is wrapping up. I'm wondering, of the thousands of toxic drug deaths in this province, why did that one stand out as requiring an inquest, and what do you hope will come from it?
Yeah, I had a meeting with the family of Sydney, and I'll never forget that meeting. Sydney's mom was she played the 911 call for me, and was very, very frustrated with the response of the University of Victoria to Sydney's death, and she had some very important points to make about the fact that her questions were not being answered. The whole point of the coroner's inquest process is to answer questions related to sudden or unexpected deaths, to ensure that deaths aren't overlooked and that the families get the answers they need. I think those are key factors that were considered when the then Minister of Public Safety directed the coroner's inquest here. I know that UVic has made a number of changes and done their own internal investigation, but there are issues that have come up in terms of EHS response during the coroner's inquest that I'm sure we'll see being considered by the coroner's jury. At the end of the day, we'll receive recommendations from the coroner's jury, and we'll ensure that they're implemented. It was an important issue in relation to how post-secondary schools deal with this issue of students who may think they're just having a good time with friends and then suddenly end up in an overdose situation, and how we can minimize harm in that very specific environment.
Andrew, do you have a follow-up?
On a separate topic, back to Michael Bryant. When he came to Legal Aid BC, were you involved in that at all? And how much consideration did you give to how he parted with them with this latest appointment?
As I recall, it was the board of Legal Aid BC that identified Mr. Bryant and hired him. They did canvass me as Attorney General at the time, knowing his background and that he'd been through recovery and all these other pieces. Was I comfortable with him being hired? I said that I was, if they thought he was the best candidate. And so that's my recollection of how he was hired.
Emily from Vista Radio.
Hi, Premier. With the increase in overseas trade, do you have any thoughts on how to offset the increased cost of overseas fishing or overseas trade compared to the U.S.?
Yeah, I think the reason why we're so dependent on the U.S. The reason why is pretty obvious. It's a massive market. It's very easy to get to. We're connected by rail. We share electricity. We have relatives and friends and businesses that have worked together for generations. That's what makes what the president is doing so frustrating. Is like we both benefit from this relationship. You get cheap timber from us for home building. You're able to access electricity, so you don't have to burn coal, and you can keep the lights on. It's cheaper for you to do that than any other type of electricity generation. We tour and visit each other's communities and drive tourism. And so it's impossible to replace the U.S. market at the end of the day. But the president is forcing us into a position where we can't see the U.S. the same way. And so it means doing things that are harder. And it is harder to trade overseas. There are language barriers. You got to get your product there, all these other pieces. But what we're doing as a government is trying to shrink that gap between British Columbia and the rest of the world to make it easier. I'm hopeful we'll have a strong federal partner in this work, and we'll be able to make it easier for businesses to do this work by reducing as much process as possible and supporting them in making connections. At the end of the day, for this sablefish, people in Japan will pay more for it, and that covers the cost of getting it over there. There are many products like that where if we can access global markets, we'll get more money for it.
Emily, do you have a follow-up?
Unrelated question from my colleagues at Vista Radio. The Young Agrarian Network this week released a report calling for more supports for young first-generation farmers and a new national framework. This might be a great question for Minister Popham as well. Would your party support such a framework that would increase accessibility to capital and reduce barriers for young first-gen farmers?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll pass this to Agriculture Minister.
Thanks for the question, and I really appreciate it because our government's been supporting the Young Agrarians since 2017. They're an amazing organization that not just young agrarians, but agrarians who are maybe changing careers midway in their lives. We see a lot of women coming in as new farmers. When someone decides that they want to take part in our agriculture economy, someone who wants to start farming for the first time, we try and provide the supports for them there, but we also need the partnership from the federal government. We know that Quebec has also invested heavily in the Young Agrarians program. Like to see it right across the nation. It's a great program that matches new farmers up with landowners that might not be able to farm. So you'll see the cost of land taken away as a barrier for them to start. So yeah, I'm going to Winnipeg for an FPT meeting with the new federal minister in July, and my other counterparts across the country. We often talk about the Young Agrarian program, and I'm hoping to have that conversation again.
Next, we will go to the phones. Graham Wood from Business in Vancouver. Graham, just remember to unmute yourself.
Oh, hi, Premier. Today, the new housing minister, Gregory Robertson, federal housing minister, of course, told reporters that he does not want to see a decline in home prices, but rather the solution to the crisis is more affordable housing, presumably non-market housing. Do you agree? What do you think about that statement?
Well, at the provincial level, our focus is on bringing the cost of housing down. We think we can build housing faster and cheaper using modular housing. I'm glad to see the Prime Minister's focus on that. We think we can make housing more affordable for people to purchase through innovative work like we're doing with Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh in Vancouver on a site that's going to bring the average price of a unit down 30% from market, and a model that's replicable across the entire province. We've had 8 months in a row of rent declines through building additional rental housing, reining in short-term rentals, and other work around the rental housing market. Rents are still too high. We think we can bring rents down even further. That's our goal, by building more rental housing to respond to the need that's out there. And so, to the extent that the federal government's goal is around building more rental housing, around modular housing to bring down the cost of construction, around partnering with us on initiatives to bring down the cost of purchase for people trying to get into the housing market, then we'll have a good partnership.
Graham, do you have a follow-up?
Right. Do you think land prices need to decline in BC to create affordable housing?
Well, we've taken some measures to try to create opportunities for multifamily development in sites across the province with the express goal of bringing down the cost of land for building homes that families can afford, especially first-time home buyers, especially in established neighborhoods where there are community centers already, infrastructure already, schools already, and those schools are not full because the neighborhood's aging. And so our density initiative in relation to single-family zoning across the province, allowing, without a full public hearing, people to build 2 or 3 units on a single-family site, allowing small apartment buildings close to transit, and densifying near transit stops like subways or like SkyTrain and Rapid Bus. What we're trying to do is actually bring down the cost of the land, and I think we are starting to see that in terms of availability of sites for development across the province.
Anaïs Elbouchtani from Radio-Canada.
Hi, Premier. Thank you for taking my question. This is for a colleague, actually. She's asking about the plans about BC Ferry. So we're heading towards a long weekend again, and the summer we've heard mayors worried, and also, chambers of commerce worried about what BC Ferry plans are this summer. So just your comments.
Yeah, during the summer, we do see some improvements of service in areas that have been really challenged, like the Sunshine Coast will have 2 ships working starting soon, which is very good news to provide that redundancy for that community. But yeah, the summer will be a heavy strain on BC Ferries without question. They need new boats. They're going through that process. We're supporting them in that process. We'll be engaging in conversations with the federal government. They've got a ferries planned for the eastern part of Canada, which we certainly don't begrudge, but we expect to see the federal government present on ferry-related issues here on the west coast as well. It's the marine highway for so many people that voted federal Liberal in the last election and sent MPs to Parliament. We don't want them to forget about our ferries here as well.
Anaïs, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, speaking of the federal government, we didn't hear you on. Can we hear you on a general statement? What do you think of the ministers that we have from BC at the table in Ottawa?
Well, I'm glad to see good representation of BC MPs in the federal parliament, and I hope and expect that they'll advance our interests as well as the interests of all Canadians around the table, but at a minimum ensure that we're not missed in the Quebec-Ontario press that always takes place. I will sound a note of caution. I saw the Minister of Industry is also the Minister for Development in Quebec regions. The Minister for AI is also the Minister of Development for Southwestern Ontario. These ministers will have to go above and beyond to demonstrate that they are, when they're working on AI, with BC being a center for AI technology development, or when they're working on industry and developing industry in this country, that it's not just a program for Southwestern Ontario, it's not just a program for Quebec, that they are taking a national view of these things. The titles of those ministries being coupled together gives me pause. And so I hope they're able to demonstrate right out of the gate that they're taking that national lens and these incredibly important portfolios they've been given.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's event.
Thanks very much.